Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I'd show you how I feed all of my pets. Somehow I've avoided making this kind of video. Of course I've shown bits and pieces here and there of me feeding the animals in the past, but not every single animal in one video, so I thought I'd show you what I feed them, how I feed them, and when I feed them. Before we get started though and jump into feeding all of the pets, I just wanted to quickly talk about one of my long-term partnerships, which is with Fallow, previously known as Wildlife Collections. So if you didn't know, they create bracelets where a percentage of the profit goes to official non-profit organisations that do conservation work with the animal of your choice. Last year alone they raised over $362,000 towards helping wildlife, and by purchasing a bracelet you are directly helping wildlife in need. Your bracelet will also come with your own animal that you can track, so you can feel really connected to the wildlife you're helping. My bracelet, which by the way comes in so many different colours, I went for black because black goes with pretty much anything, tracks a loggerhead sea turtle called Sandy. So Sandy was released last year, and since then she has travelled all around the coast of Florida, which is one of my favourite places, and she is currently just above Fort Myers. Fallow have given you guys a 20% off discount code, which is on screen and in the description, and if you would like to check out any of their bracelets, their website is also down below. So to start with, the first person, well not person, living thing in this house that gets to eat first is Hubble, my 1-year-old cat. He gets breakfast before everyone else, and of course he gets fed twice a day, so let's go and do that. So Hubble is fed on a raw food diet, and this is a pre-made raw food because I can just not hack making it myself, and he has been on this for the majority of his life. When he was a kitten he was on a high quality wet food just because we didn't really have the space to store this, but now he has his own dedicated freezer to his raw food, and this one is a beef one, I believe. It does come in a few different flavours, but this one is a beef one. So they do have a calculator on their website telling you how much to feed your cats based on their weight. I think Hubble is on about 110 grams to 125 grams per day, and that does work out about a quarter of this packet, so I tend to divide this up and then also divide it up again based on his 2 feedings a day, one in the morning and also one in the evening. So this I do give to him on a plate because he gets this everywhere. Even still he'll get it all over the floor, which is disgusting, but I do make sure to disinfect and clean the floor afterwards, and also the plate is just easy enough to clean and put into the dishwasher. So that is Hubble. Very simple, not very interesting. He just gets his raw food twice a day, and he does get the occasional treat in between if I'm training him or I'm doing like foraging toys and enrichment, but pretty much he just gets his raw food twice a day. It doesn't look very nice or interesting, but he enjoys it. So then of course is the rats, and I do feed them every single day, mostly in the evenings, and I do make the food myself. I do make my own homemade mix, and I do have a video on my channel showing this and showing more of the process if you're interested, so I'll pop that in the description. But this is based on the Shunammite diet, and this is something that a lot of rat owners and breeders will tend to follow in the UK. So with this I just keep this in this tub and scoop out how much I need on a daily basis. I tend to aim for about 12 to 15 grams of food per rat, and this works out with my 6 boys at the moment, about 1 and a bit of these mugs, so I've kind of learnt how much that is, and I don't have to weigh this out every single time. So they will just get this either in foraging toys or just scattered in their bedding, and today we've just gone for scatter feeding. They do also get other food throughout the week, things like fresh fruits and vegetables every few days, whether it's peas or sweet corn that they have to go pea fishing for, or I'll just put this in a bowl in the cage, or like today they are having this on like a kebab stick thing, and they have to really work for this, and it's a bit more enriching. Of course I can't help myself. If I come in here and they're staring at me and it's not their meal time, I will sometimes give them the occasional treat, things like banana chips or plain popcorn. They will get those too. Of course as well, if I have any rats that are on medication or need a bit of extra help if they're quite old, I will give them extra food on top of this, things like baby food or weight gaining foods like this one. This one is Wait Up Baby by Rat Warehouse, and Crumble is an old man now and he has lost a bit of weight, so I do give him extra feedings away from the other boys and he loves it. So this is just a powder that you add water to, mix it all together to make a wet food consistency. And I did also add in a kidney function support powder, just because he is around that age where they can start having issues. And he is eating this away from the other boys. I will tend to give this maybe around midday, just to give him some extra food. So for the mice, they do get fed a mix as their main food. And I get so many questions asking me to show you how to make your own mouse food, and I'm not going to do that at this current time, just because, as I'm sure you're aware, there's not much information out there on mouse diet or making your own mouse foods, and I don't feel 100% confident with people copying what I'm doing whilst I'm still trying to figure that out, so I hope that makes sense. But I will briefly explain what I do with the mouse food at the moment. So their food is mostly based around the Shunamite diet for rats. I have tweaked it slightly because they do have different nutritional needs. I do add in a bit more protein and also a bit more fat. So I give them about 4 to 5 grams of food each on a daily basis, and I work out roughly how much that is with 5 mice. And this I'll either scatter feed or give them in a foraging toy like this mouse. And if there's some left over the next day, I will just not feed them as much the next day. They do of course get the occasional treat, and they also get fruits and vegetables when the rats do. I also tend to give them things like sprays, millets, grasses about once a week. These tend to go down pretty quickly, but once a week I'll always make sure to top these up too. So that is what the rats and the mice get fed, pretty similar in terms of how often and what they get, with just a few differences. So when it comes to my leopard gecko Orbit, she of course eats live insects, so if you're not interested in watching that, you can skip to this timestamp on screen, but she does eat live insects, mostly dubia roaches, sometimes things like mealworms or other types of worms, but she's not the biggest fan of crickets, which I'm secretly glad about because I cannot stand them. So with these are gut loaded beforehand, and that just means feeding them things like vegetables a few days before, just to make sure they have nutrients inside of them. And then I do coat these in a supplement. Today's supplement just happens to be a calcium powder, but she does alternate between this one and also a vitamin powder based on different schedules, which I will leave Leopard Gecko's video in the description. I follow the same schedule with that. So today she's getting calcium, but she does also have a vitamin supplement depending on what day it is. So it's not very nice, but I do have to shake them to coat them in the supplements, and I just do this in these food bowls, and then I'll use my feeding tongs to put them in the enclosure and start to feed her, and then she just does her thing and she eats them. She tends to eat about 2 to 3 medium-sized dubia roaches per feeding, and that is every 2 to 3 days. So I did try to offer her the third one, but she was not having it, and she just turned around and went back to sleep. So that is Orbit. She just eats a variety of live insects. So when it comes to my giant African land snail Slushie, I will offer vegetables a few times a week. This really depends on what we're eating on that day or what we have in the fridge. Today is just courgette, carrots and pepper. This will not all get eaten. I will have to remove this and throw it away so it doesn't get mouldy. But the cleanup crew that I have in here, so the springtails and also the isopods, do also really enjoy this too. I also make sure to have a few pieces of cuttlefish in the enclosure as a calcium source all the time, and I guess that counts towards the feeding routine too. Slushie also gets a protein source on a weekly basis, and this is just kept in this jar. This is a snail mix. It's a mixture of different things ground up, and this you just add water to this, make sure it's all soaked in, and then put it into the enclosure. So that is Slushie's feeding routine. It's not a daily occurrence, but it does have 3 main components to it, and it's fairly simple. So when it comes to my millipedes, they are the easiest ones to feed and arguably the most boring, because you are not going to see them eat anything in this video. They are probably not even going to make an appearance in this video because I've not seen them for a few weeks now. So they essentially will eat just the soil mix in their enclosure, also things like dry dead leaves and also decaying wood. These things I do have to top up on a regular basis. Maybe every month or so after they've eaten them all, I will go out to the woods, make sure I'm in a place where there's no like pesticides or anything, and pick out safe types of leaves and wood and bring it back, stick it into my freezer for about 48 hours just to make sure there's no bugs or anything on them, and then just stick this into their enclosure. I will also sometimes offer them pieces of vegetables, so things like carrots I will pop in. These mostly get eaten by their cleanup crew. I rarely see the millipedes actually eating these, but I like to offer them just in case. So that is that for the millipedes. They're pretty easy and also a really cheap pet once you've got everything set up, because you can just find most things outside for free, and that is pretty much it. So that is the end of this video. That is how I feed all of my pets. I think every single animal that took part, really enjoyed filming this one, but that is pretty much the basics of how they get fed on a daily or a weekly basis. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Say bye, pudding!